In the last class, we started with Angular, and the main use of going with Angular is to go with the front-end web application development. And it's a TypeScript based. The code what we write in Angular is TypeScript based, and we have seen how to do Angular setup. So to go with Angular, we require Node.js. We have to install Node.js, and using npm command, we install Angular CLI, and we require Visual Studio Code for developing Angular applications. So in the last class, we have created one Angular project. So this is the project what we have created. Let me open this folder in command prompt. Just to type cmd here, it's going to open our folder in command prompt. Now, here, what are the project we are opening? This project we want to open in Visual Studio Code. How to open this project in Visual Studio Code is by using the command code dot. So the project will get opened in Visual Studio Code. There. Now, how to run our project? What command we have to use? ng-serve. ng-serve is used to run our project, that is to build the project. It's building project, and once it is done, we have to open browser and type the URL http://localhost 4200. So this is the result we are getting. So how we are getting this result? Whenever we make a request to Angular project, it goes to index.html file first. In index.html, using this element app root, it's going to load the app component. It's going to load the app component. This app we call it as component. And the presentation of this app component is done by using app.html file. So whatever the content present in app.html file, that content it is displaying for us. And what is the next one? The style URL. So this is for styling purpose. We have given the styles for H3 and H4 elements. So these are the styles. This is the content what it is getting displayed on our browser. And what these two curly braces, I called it as data binding. So in order to take the data from our component to your view part presentation, we make use of this data binding concept. So this is the content what it is displaying on our browser. Clear up to here, all of you?
Yes.
Right. Let us understand more on this data binding today. Data binding. So what is this data binding is like? Data binding is used to communicate. Or even we can say bind data between the components means your TypeScript files. Okay, and view templates. So what are our view templates? Your HTML code. So in order to communicate the data between your components to view templates, that is HTML code, we make use of this data binding. And here we are having the types. The types of data binding are like, first one, simple string interpolation, we call it as string interpolation, and the symbol what we use is these two curly braces. We make use of these two curly braces, and here we send the data. Next one, we are having property binding. So for this we use the symbol square brackets. Here we go with the property. Then next one, event binding. For this we go with the parenthesis. Here we mention the event like click or blur, like that. Then next one, two-way data binding. Two-way data binding means the data can go from our component to view part, the template, that is HTML. From template again we can take the data to the component, both the directions. That we call it as two-way data binding. And for this the symbol what we use is square bracket parenthesis ng model. We use the word ng model. right? These are the 4 types of data binding we are having. Now let us understand all this by using the example application. Let us go with the example application over here. So for this, let us create one new component. So by default, whenever we create Angular project, it comes with the component app. See, under SRC, you can see one folder app. So this only we call app component. So whenever I say component, what it means? Your TS file, your HTML file, your CSS file. These 3 files combination only we can call it as a component. Now, here, let us go with a component here. Let us create our own component now. Let us go with our own component. So creating new component. Let me go with the name binding. Any name we can use. As follows. How to create a component is at your prompt or terminal, we have to use the command ng generate component. Let me go with the name binding. Ng generate component binding. So here we have to go with the programs. That is binding dot ts binding dot html, and if you want to go with css, you can say binding dot css. Now let us do this code now. So at your prompt, how to terminate this compilation? Control C. Now so cls. Now we want to create a new component. So whenever you want to create a component, we make use of the command ng generate component. Let me go with the name binding. I'm going with the name binding, any name. It has created the files. See the files what it has created. See, it has created, see, one folder binding. Under binding folder, you can see the files here. See here, binding.ts file, binding.html file, and binding.css file. These 3 are the important files. Right? Now, let us go to this binding.ts file. Here, let me go with some properties. Let me go with some properties like username, it's of type string, and I'm going with an empty value. Next, we'll go with first name, it's of type string with an empty string. Next, last name, it's of type string with an empty string. Then email, it's of type string, empty string. Now, I want to give values to these properties. So how to give value to the properties? Using a constructor. You can make use of constructor to give the value to these properties. So go with the constructor here. How to create a constructor in TypeScript? Using which part? Constructor. Using constructor, we can provide the values. So provide the values here. So this dot username can go with some value. I'll say Raj123. Then this dot first name. Let me take Raj. This dot last name. Let me say technologies, anything. Right. So what we are doing here, I'm just repeating, we are discussing about data binding concept. Data binding is to communicate the data between your components, TypeScript code to HTML. So first one we are seeing about this example. For that we are creating one component called as binding. So whenever you want to create a new component, we have to use this command ng generate component, the component name. So I'm going with the component name binding. So that only we have created up to now. And we have created a class binding with these properties: username, first name, last name, and email. So in the constructor, we are providing the values: username, first name, last name, and email. Let me take some email here. Right? So these are the values what you are given. Now these properties are ready with values. Now I want to display these values onto the browser. So whenever you want to display some content onto the browser, where we have to display in HTML file. Binding.html, we have to display the content. Now, how to display here? So you can see here H3. I'm explaining about string interpolation. I'm explaining the first type of binding, string interpolation. How to take this string interpolation is just you can say H4. How to take the value? Username. How to take the value of this username now? How to take the value of this username? This one. How to take the value into presentation? We have to use two curly braces. Two curly braces we have to use. Got it? This concept only we call string interpolation. Right? Then next one. First name, the value of first name. Next one. Last name, the value of last name. Next, email, the value of email. That's it. Now, once the code is ready, we have to come back to your prompt and which command we have to use to build our project? ng serve. Once the build is successful, reload this page. So only which component is getting loaded? This part of area is coming from which component? App component. App component. So is our binding component getting loaded here? Are you getting binding component here? No, right? We are not getting any binding component because whenever we run our project, it goes to this app component only and it stops here only. It's going to stop here only.
Redirect that page, right?
We have to redirect that page to binding. So what is the selector to load binding component? App binding. So if I want to load this binding component, which element we have to use? App binding. So that we have to bootstrap here like this. App binding. That's it. So when we use this element app binding, then your binding component will get loaded. So for this binding component, this is the data. And this data I'm presenting using the template URL binding.html. So this content will be displayed for us. Check it now. Some problem. Okay, I think it's a so it is taking the name. I think there may be some predefined name. Selector app binding. Spellings are right only, right? Okay, it's saying to include in the imports. Okay, so here we have to go to this which file app.ts file. Here we have to import that. Here we have to say here imports. What is that? Binding. In the previous older versions up to Angular 17, we used to have a file called as app.module.ts file. In app.module.ts file, we are going to do the import statements. We are going to do imports. So from Angular 18, it has become standalone. Standalone means for every component, whichever the imports you require, only those imports you can do. So in app.module.ts file, for the complete project, we used to go with the imports. But from Angular 18 onwards, so it has become standalone, means it is independent. Every component is independent. whichever the components are required, only those imports we can manage here. That's advantage of standalone applications from Angular 18 version onwards. Here, got the result? Right? So what changes we have done to make it work? In app.ts, in app component, under imports, we need to add this component binding. Right? This is important. If you miss work. Right? So we got the result here. String interpolation. We have got the username, first name, last name, and email. Now we can do some presentation also. So how to do the styling part in binding.css? Let us do styling H3. Let us go with the color as some green. Then H4 will go with the color as some cyan. Some colors, okay, it's up to you. Here, cyan is not looking good. Something, let us go with yellow. It's also not. Let us go with blue violet. Some colors, it's up to you. Right? Something better. So in CSS file, we have to do the styling part. Clear this example about string interpolation? Now, I want to display a date. I want to display what? A date onto the browser. I want to display a date onto the browser. So what changes I have to do? Go to this binding. Take one more property called as date message. Date message. It's of type string. Then we'll say get new date dot to date string. To date string. So this is going to give the date for us. So this new date dot to date string is going to give the date for us. Now, how to take that value? Here you can use H4. You can say H4 current date. Current date. You can take this date message. You can take the value of date message. Now see here, we get the results here. So Wednesday, August 6, 2025. So we are getting the date here. Now I want to even get the time also. I want to even get the time. Then what we do here? New current date, new date dot to date string dot to local something is there.
Current time, I think so.
Not we are not having current time. Let us do one thing. So we are having this current date. I want to show the timer also. I want to show the timer here. So let me do one thing. Let us take one string here with an empty string. Now, here let us go with a method here inside the constructor. Go with one method called as set interval. I'm going with a method called as set interval, and I want to display the timer. I want to display the timer. For this, we are going to use one anonymous method. Anonymous method means no name to the method. How to go with the anonymous method is simple parenthesis, this one equal to greater than symbol. So this only we call anonymous method. Here we'll set the time here. So we can say let current date equal to new date. I'm taking the date value. Next say this dot date message equal to current date dot to date string, current date dot to date string. Then we'll go with a space. Then we'll say current date dot to locally time string. Locally time string. That's it. Now see, on your browser, are you getting here? Is the time also getting updated automatically? Right? Is the time getting updated automatically? So this is the way to display the date and time, and current time and date, and including the seconds, it's going to display when we write this piece of code. Got it? What you are doing? First of all, you are taking current date, and you are taking that current date into date string format, and for that current date, you are even applying the time string also to locally time string. This is going to give the current time for us in the form of hours, minutes, and seconds. Right? And the time is also getting changed automatically. So this is the way to display the time on our browser window. Got this one? Any questions? How to take this value? How to take this value, date message value? How to take this date message value? Using what? Data binding, that is string interpolation. We are using string interpolation to take the value of this date message. Clear up here, all of you, how to go with this string interpolation? The first one, simple, very simple. Just we have to use two curly braces and take the variable name, take the property name or variable name. So this is about string interpolation. Moving to the next one, that is property binding. Moving to the next one, property binding. Now, so what is this property binding is like? Here, let me go. H3 property binding. Now, here we'll create one button, some ID equal to B1. Then we'll say disabled. Disabled equal to, we'll say here some control flag here. So the control flag is going to decide. The control flag is going to decide whether this button should be enabled or disabled. Okay. So disabled equal to control flag, and we'll say some submit button. We'll go with some submit button. For example, if I say disabled equal to true, I'm giving directly the value disabled as true. Now see here and the result. So we are getting, see, submit button is disabled. Disabled, we made it as true. If you make it as false, now see it is enabled. But this control I want to do not in HTML. I want to make this control way in our TypeScript. In our TypeScript, I want to control this. So this only we call property. This is our property, means attribute for your HTML element. This property I want to bind it with your TypeScript file. So for that, I'm taking one boolean type control flag. I'm taking one boolean type what here? Control flag. Then come to this TS file. Come to this TS file. You create one control flag here. I'm going with one control flag. Control flag. It's of type boolean. And here I can set the value true. So when I make this control flag as true, so since I'm binding to this disabled control flag, so what is the value it's going to take here? True. So now the disabled value is for true here. So it is disabled now. Then if I want to make it enabled, here I can make it as false. So once you make it as false, then this value will become false, then the disabled is false, then it is going to enable here. So the control I am managing by using TypeScript file. So the control we are managing by using this TypeScript file. So this disabled, whatever you are giving in square brackets, this is only we call property binding. I'm binding one property of HTML element to our TypeScript here. So this concept only we call property binding. Clear this example, all of you? Property binding. Right? Next one. Event binding. Let us go with the example of event binding. Event means doing some action. Event means what here? Doing some action. So here, what is the value of this username? Already we have given the value of this username. This one, Raj123. I want to change the value of this username. I want to change the value of this username, but I want to make it dynamic. Means I want to accept that username from user here, and that username I want to change it here. This username we want to update. So for that I'm going to do one event. So here go with the button id equal to, let us do one thing. We'll say here username input type equal to text. Input type equal to text. We'll say placeholder equal to enter new username. Enter new username. There. Now for this, enter new username, and I'm going to give one name to this text field, that is hash my name. I'm taking some name called as my name here. There. Now create one button id equal to some b2, then click. This is the meaning of event. This click only we call event binding. So when I click on this button, I want to invoke a function called as update username. We want to invoke a function called as update username. To that I want to give the value what I have entered in this text field. So how you are referring to this? My name. So how this text field is referred? By using my name. So how to take that value? Here you can say my name dot value. So whatever the value I have entered in this text field, how to take the value of this text field using this id my name dot value. Then we'll go with the button update. We'll go with the button here update. Now check it here. Okay, we have to write the complete code. Now come to this binding.ts. What function we have to create here? Update username, which takes new user of type string. Then we'll say this dot username equal to new user. So whatever the new user value we are passing. So whatever the value I am passing from this text field, that value will go and store into this new user. That new user value I'm updating to username. That's it. Now check it here. You can see what's here. Username, enter new username. This is the placeholder. And what is the value of username? See Raj123. I want to make it as Raj new 123. And when I click on update, see, is it updating here? Is it getting updated? So this is called as event. Clicking on this update button, this is called as event. So when I do some event, it is invoking a function. It is invoking a function of your TypeScript, goes to this function, and whatever the value we are taking here, whatever the value we have entered in text field, that value we are taking, and that value we are giving to what? This new username. We are giving to this our username. So this concept only we call it as what? Event binding. So whatever the username we enter here, anything. So if I go with something like Raj456 update. So it's getting updated here. Clear all of you? Any questions? Right? You have to practice this. I'm going very, very slowly. Please practice it. The next one. Next one is two-way data binding. Next example is for two-way data binding, means both the directions. Up to now what we have seen, we have taken the data from our TypeScript to HTML and or from HTML to TypeScript. Both the directions we have used. So one-way direction only. TypeScript to HTML, HTML to TypeScript only. Two-way data binding means both the directions. I can take the data from our TypeScript to HTML, HTML to TypeScript. Both the directions. That concept only we call two-way data binding. Like example. Here let me go with the element address. I'm taking here address input. Let me break the line here. However, when we use H3 automatically it breaks. Input type equal to text placeholder equal to enter address and how to go with two-way data binding is square bracket parenthesis ng model. This element we have to use square bracket parenthesis ng model equal to what is the name I'm giving for this address. So what is the element name for two-way data binding? Address. Now how to take this value? How to take that value? We have to say it like this. Entered address is like this. Address. That's it. So whatever the address we have entered here, this address I'm displaying here. This address I'm displaying. Then come to this TypeScript file. So you take one element called as address. It's of type string. Here I'll go with one empty string. Here I'm going with empty string. Now, so what it's saying cannot bind to ng model since it isn't known property of input. So this ng model is coming from a model called as forms module. ng model is coming from which module? Forms module. So whenever I want to use this ng model in our application, we have to import what here? In our binding component, we have to import here forms module. We have to import what here? Forms module, because ng model is coming from forms module. Here. See? Two-way data binding. So are we getting any address here? No. So can I send this address value from my component? From my component, can I send this address value? Say it is empty now. So let me provide the address here. 1234 Hyderabad. So from where I'm giving the value to this address? From my component I'm giving here. I'm not giving from HTML. I'm giving from component. So is it modified here? See? Is it automatically getting updated address? Did I type anything here? No. Did we type anything here? No. So it's automatically coming. From where it is coming? It is coming from our TypeScript file. It's coming from where? From our TypeScript file. Now, if I change over here, I'll come back and I'll change here 456 Bangalore. So while typing only, are you getting the result here? Let me type Chennai. While typing only, I'm getting, see, whatever I'm typing here. So are you getting that result down? Are you getting that result? How we are getting? Whatever the value I'm typing here, this value first of all coming and storing into this address. This value is coming and storing into address, and that address I'm displaying over here using string interpolation. So this concept only we call two-way data binding. This only we call two-way data binding. Clear this concept all of you? What is the meaning of two-way data binding? all these concepts we are going to use in our applications. We are learning the concepts first. So once we are good with these concepts, we can make use of these concepts in our projects. Okay. So what we have discussed here, first of all, we have learned how to create and how to install Angular, how to create Angular project, and how to create a component in Angular project. And today we have discussed about the binding concept, that is string interpolation, property binding, event binding, and two-way data binding. So these four are very, very important to us.
What is the difference between string interpolation and the two-way data binding?
String
Maybe
interpolation is taking data from our component to HTML only.
like TS to HTML.
That's it.
Yeah.
Whereas two-way data binding is from HTML to TypeScript, TypeScript to HTML, both the directions.
Okay.
So what is happening here? Whatever the value I'm typing in address. So I'm typing some value in address. So whatever the value I'm typing in address, what is going to happen? This value, it goes to TypeScript file. It goes to your TypeScript file, and this value will get updated internally. Okay, this value will get updated internally. And once it gets updated, how to prove that? I'm displaying that value back here on our browser using string interpolation. I'm doing that part. To prove that, I'm showing like this. Okay. So this address is a property coming from where? From our TypeScript file, right?
Yes.
This address, TypeScript file. So that address, I'm displaying that value over here. So how I'm displaying? By using string interpolation, I'm showing what is the value I'm typing. This value first it goes to TypeScript. What is going to happen here? This value first goes to TypeScript. Once it goes to TypeScript, it's going to store that value into the property address. So once it stores that value into address, and I'm taking that address value and displaying back onto my browser using string interpolation. Got it? So that's the reason while typing only we are getting the result here. Okay. So these all things are possible. We might have seen in some of the websites, whatever I'm typing, it is going to display down immediately. So that is possible because of what? Two-way data binding concept. Okay. Right. So please practice whatever we have discussed today about that binding concept, and this binding is very, very important during interview times. They'll ask you about what is the meaning of binding and what are the different types of binding we are having. 4 types of binding we have discussed: string interpolation, property binding, event binding, and two-way data binding. So for two-way data binding, we use more when we go with forms. Angular forms, in Angular forms, we will be using more of two-way data binding and event binding also. Because when we go with form, we do the events like click operations. Whatever the click operation we do, it has to take your data to your TypeScript file and it processes your data. So we'll be using more of all these bindings in our applications. Okay, please practice this. And tomorrow we'll go with the next one, like Angular directives we are going to discuss in tomorrow's class. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you.